Square Enix is coming out with Guardians of the Galaxy video game.
Right.
And somebody said they didn't like it, what was being shown. And I'm like, out of all the damn games shown today for E3 day 2, that actually showed us gameplay.
Right.
Like, I'm looking for gameplay. I don't want to see any fancy ass trailer. Like, I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, cinematics that have nothing to do with what you're actually going to do in the game. Yeah, it drives me nuts.
like, I don't want to see in game engine assets that you'll never see. Like,
I agree.
So these people was like, "Yo, it was horrible." I was like, "What was horrible?" Okay.
Feels like when we were coming up, though,
some of these
that was
people
like
just started gaming like 2 years ago or
standard,
something.
Right. Well, I'd rather have that than like another. There's a dark power and a crystal was stolen, and like every game trailer is the same. It drives me nuts.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was the
Tell me more about the crystal.
And no Final Fantasy 16 announcement. Come on. Speaking of crystals,
because Sony is gonna have theirs Sony's gonna have their stuff on the 28th. So of course it makes sense because that's gonna be an exclusive, a time exclusive. So that's why I was like, I seen why it wasn't shown today or tomorrow.
Nice.
That and Forspoken.
Oh, cool.
Well, I guess that's a great way to bring in the episode because it is E3 season.
Chosen, you're on mute.
Oh.
Mic check. 1, 2.
Can you hear me?
2, 1, 2.
Yep.
There we go. Clear to you?
Mic check, mic check, mic check.
All right, perfect. What a great way to bring in the episode because it is E3 season.
It is.
All right. You know,
it's the 2 streams.
Certain
back
industries
to back.
have heart and soul events. And in gaming, E3 is a heart and soul event. It can't be understated. And I'm glad and feel lucky that we have some dope guests on today, but we also are lucky to have an in-house E3 veteran in Red. Because Red has been to more E3s than she has fingers. All right?
No, it's been 10.
Okay. you do have all 10 fingers. That's right. Yeah.
I got them, you know.
So I'm really interested to hear you and Phil kind of dropping the gems on what you've seen so far. I'm definitely trying to hear some of that because I thought the Battlefield trailer was fire. So
I almost lost 2 fingers once with a Cutco knife, but that's a story for a different time. Those knives are sharp. Not a plug for Cutco.
They can cut a penny in half.
Yeah, dude.
They can.
You must have. Tell me this: when they saw you almost cut your fingers off, did you get the sale?
No.
Clearly sharp. Clearly sharp.
They're like, oh, they had to cut the fingers off, or I'm not buying.
Right.
So.
This is a prop. That's not your hand.
Oh, almost. Almost. We got 2 great guests on today. Marcus, let the people know, who we have in the building.
Yeah, we've got Phil Ranta formerly from Facebook Gaming and Mob Crush and Full Screen and a bunch of other places. And then we got Gianni Maiorano from CSC, who was a guest on, what was that, episode 7 or 8? Welcome to the Eat for Life podcast.
Happy to be back.
Yeah, excited to be here. Oh, I love it.
2 of you get 2 air horn sets, see? Thank you guys for coming on. We're excited to have you. A lot of this current generation entrepreneurship happening in this episode. We see that a lot with some of you guys' history. So maybe Gianni, let us know a little bit about your background, and then Phil, we're definitely excited to hear what you've been working on.
Sure.
Yeah, again, thanks so much for having me back. Gianni Maiorano, business consultant at CSC, Digital Brand Services, help protect digital assets to securely conduct business online, as well as putting together online brand and fraud protection programs to identify and mitigate folks that are targeting their brands either at their ecosystem or outside of their ecosystem. And heavily into gaming, been into gaming my entire life. Much like Marcus, I received a shiny copy, not of Mario 3, but of the original Legend of Zelda. It was actually my brother's, and I was smitten. And ever since then, I've been into games. Oh yeah, I should have brought it with me. I have it. I have the original copy from 30 plus years ago, and really looking to continue to connect with the next generation through gaming. And I noticed that throughout my entire career, I always found myself, you see, it's a lot like this game or it's a lot like that game, and everyone's like, Gianni, all you do is talk about games. And now it turns out that was right, and happy to be here and being able to tie that into where we're going from a business perspective, which is I work for a company where I am my own internal, and I'm going to put this in extreme air quotes. I am my own CEO, where I can make my own decisions. I can govern my own business, so to speak. However, it's in the confines of a corporate structure that's already there. So that is wholly different from what my parents did and folks like Phil and the folks on this call, where you are starting your own business, taking your own financial risk, and creating your own structure to create a successful business, more of the entrepreneurship. So happy to be here and discuss about my experience in that regard.
That's dope. I mean, I get to work with you. I see some of those things that you do. Shout out to our YouTube viewers. I see you making a lot of noise early. Gianni, that's dope because I get to see some of your like formality, like or some of your formalities. I mean to say at like some of the opportunities I get to talk to you, and I feel like it can't be overstated the value of working in like a large team, like layered environment, like your company, because I can see it from the difference from being in like a startup mindset. I can see it and see how like long term the value, the value can like set up for success further out than I had thought until I met someone like you. So I'm really excited to ask a couple questions.
Thank you. I don't pay you enough, Sebastian. That was very kind.
Yeah, I got you. It's real. And Phil, not to interrupt you, but I know you got a lot going on. So talk to us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Phil Ranta, I'm the CEO of Wormhole Labs, where we've built the user-generated metaverse. I spent the last 15 years of my career in the intersection of entertainment and technology, and I've been kind of known for somebody who rides hockey sticking curves. So, for example, I got into web video in 2005, and then I got into mobile content in 2006, and then I got into I was employee number 9 at Fullscreen in 2012. Where all the MCN boom was happening. I was the first head of network over there. We grew to being the biggest network in the world after about 7 months, and then had a 9-figure exit after 3 years. And then I went to be COO over at Studio 71, where we went from 1 billion to 8 billion monthly views within the couple of years that I was there. Then I went over to Mob Crush to head their creator side and got up to 650,000 creators. And then I was poached by Facebook to run their game creators division, where I signed Ronda Rousey and Disguised Toast and Zero and Corinna Kopf and a bunch of other people. And then I jumped there to be the CEO of this company. So super excited about bleeding edge technology, and super happy to be here to talk about E3. I have 2 kids at home, so I haven't been following very close. I've been like Twitter following what's going on at E3, so I haven't been able to see the announcements in real time. So I feel like I'm going to learn a lot, especially from you, Red. If you've been to the 10, you've got me beat by 3. So I'm sure that you've got knowledge that I don't have on that front.
Red.
You're muted.
We got you muted.
Oh, my bad. We had Xbox today and Square Enix, and then PC gaming show and Future Game Show, which I never seen before. So a lot of streams. It's kind of hard to follow them. So I'm with you, even though I don't have 2 little ones. But and then yesterday we had Ubisoft, Gearbox, and Guerrilla Collective. So with the indie games and stuff. So it's a lot. It's not like the traditional E3. Like this year we had to do this E3 portal, which I'm sorry, ESA, it didn't make any sense because there was no booth. There was booths, but when you go there, there's nobody. No one is tending the booths. It's like going into a ghost town.
Feeling.
Yeah, it's like walking into a convention and then it's a ghost town. Like nothing was there, and I think they need to do a better job of hire some, people. So I guess these companies now took it upon themselves to see what they was able to learn about last year on how they could do things on their own and kind of make that an experience this year. So hopefully we can see next year. We're supposed to be E3 supposed to happen in person. That's what they announced. So that's a big announcement that it's going to be in person next year. And it's going to be interesting since everybody did their own thing this and last year. How's it going to be next year in person? Because I can't be everywhere at one time. It's not going to happen. That's a lot of Lyfts and Ubers. So I don't know, going from Hollywood to downtown LA, like I've done it with that alone with EA Play. So it's going to be interesting. But some cool games have been announced so far. So I'm looking forward for tomorrow and Tuesday. Tuesday's the last day of E3 showcases.
Okay. So nobody's gonna talk about Battlefield, or y'all just playing? What's going on?
I mean, listen, Battlefield could be a whole show in itself because I got to see Battlefield before it was shown, and it was crazy. Alone, I love Battlefield.
It's gonna rub that all in. Listen, I thought that it was great to see Battlefield stepping up on another level because it's been a few years that Call of Duty's kind of like just kind of taking over the space 100% from the competitive and kind of like the casual side. So I like that Battlefield, like it's bringing back like new
modern age,
like innovations. Yeah, it's just bringing like just that 128. You know, for new consoles, it's like a PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. It's 128 players cross console.
Yep.
I think that opens up a lot of plateau for like a lot of gaming opportunities for different in the ecosystem all around. You know what I mean? From like PC to Xbox to you know whatever console. It's just a dope opportunity, and Battlefield is a different experience. So I like to see just the landscape get shook up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I like.
Oh, it's shaking up in this one because like one area might be team deathmatch while another area might be rush, like all on one map.
Right.
So it's gonna be pretty interesting. And then they have like tornadoes and other like weather effects that you could take advantage of. There's tons of specialists. There's 10 so far, and then there's going to be 4 extra with the battle pass. So I'm ready. Like I'm ready to get the whole Levolution popping off with the buildings falling on people that's camping and like I can't wait.
And it feels good to just see a shooting game like take it back to basics. Like for the last 2 years, I don't know if you guys have all noticed, but it feels like the last 2 years, like it's like, oh yeah, our shooting game plus a little bit of Fortnite too, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so it's just kind of like this game's coming back. It's like, nah, it's Battlefield. So that's the coolest thing. And the trailer just looked dope.
Like, how do you keep the battle royale genre from getting tired, right? I feel like Battlefield showed us how to, right? It's by, I mean, if you're essentially creating a world where people exist in it, then what's in the world? Weather is in the world, right? There's lots of people with different objectives in the real world. So I feel like they're the only ones that were thinking about the genre in a bigger way.
Exactly.
So yeah, I have a lot of respect for what they're doing. I just hope that it feels good playing it because it feels like there's a lot going on, and I'm afraid it'll get thrashy. But if I'm sure they're smart. They've got to figure it out. They've been doing Battlefield forever, so they're good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and they make a lot of changes too. And like Battlefield did that to begin with. Like originally, I mean, I remember that's why someone like me went away from Call of Duty to Battlefield because of the hyper realism, the fact that, you know, if you're shooting a machine gun, you actually have to pulse the machine gun because that's how it works. You know, you can't just be like, you know, you actually have to.
Not an auto headshot.
Yeah, right. Shooting. And it's like
you got to shoot it first.
Yeah, and if you stab somebody in real life, they don't just die. Like you have to like really get them good, you know. Like Battlefield, they thought about that stuff.
So Gianni, can you tell me one more time what you don't do with a machine gun?
That's
great. That's great.
That's what people want to do. So, but that's not how it works. So having shot a lot of machine guns like this in real life. Sure.
So I got a question. My first question for Phil. Thinking about what Red said with like E3. You know, being digital this year and kind of the booths being empty. The first thing that happens in my mind is like, okay, so you need people to attract people there. Is that something that like at Facebook with all those creators, is that something that you would like look to like build that kind of relationship? Is that something we'll see maybe like more influencers in like an E3, You know what I mean? Is that something like?
Oh,
because
yeah.
obviously, when I'm saying that makes sense, we are like, oh yeah, that would make sense. But what would it take for a company like Facebook to make something happen like that in E3? Like what? Like to empower our players of the future who can look to be signed creators to a platform. Would they be able to offer their services privately, or would that be something like a company like Facebook would have to do, or like is there 2 ways to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, building out a booth presence at E3 is intense because there's a lot of considerations, right? One is just the incredible cost and the amount of logistics of getting a booth there that's flashy enough to compete with Bethesda, right? Where they build a city in the middle of the thing, and you're kind of, even though you're Facebook, we were just a part of Facebook, so it's not like we get like big blue Facebook budget for everything. We were Facebook Gaming, right? So we weren't the keynote sponsor or anything at E3. Right. So yeah, first of all, we had to figure out how to get people in, and the way that we did that was by featuring our stars. Like we would get Stone Mountain and some of the other people in there. And yeah, a lot of it was trying to create this aspirational vibe of young streamers to say, look, this is a real outlet for you. The distribution's great. We're installed on more phones than any other technology in the social space. So it's like, this is your chance to create a global brand over here. Whereas with some of the competitive set, it's a little bit more of a narrow focus, right? It's just game streaming. It's not as much community building. You got to do that over a Discord. So I'm a year and a half out from when I was leading that department at Facebook, so goals may have changed. But at that time, yeah, all of our E3 stuff was just hand raising and saying, like, look over here, we exist too. Like, yeah, Mixer and Twitch and everybody else, but like, we're here. Come, like, take it seriously.
Right.
Did you man the booth when you were there? Were you like at the booth, at the front of the booth?
No, I was doing a lot of meetings when I was there. So I would drop in and out of the booth, but mostly I had an awesome team around me. Facebook events team is killer, so they were doing a lot of that stuff. But leading up to launching and scheduling and stuff was pretty intense. But while I was there, it was almost entirely creator meetings. So yeah, every single star on Twitch that just wanted to hear. I mean, at that time, it was the streamer wars were going on, so they wanted to hear a number, right? Like, hey, I'll go anywhere. How much are you going to pay me? So it was just that conversation over and over and over again. Right. But I'm sure that things have changed now that the Ninja moving to Mixer, moving back to Twitch thing, like, feels like the streaming wars have cooled off a little bit. So I bet now they're getting down to the real conversations.
People try to figure out the market, right? Like when kind of in your time there, you guys were like leading that first round of the stream wars. Now it seems like everybody's trying to figure out what is actually valuable, right? Because you can pay all that money, but it's like you see Ninja get 30 million, but that didn't even save Mixer for like 6 more months.
Well, there's one thing that's as true about influencers now as it's always been, is they never have as much influence as you think, right? So Mixer thought they were going to bring... Because like influence means different things, right? If I say like, hey, everybody, click on this link and go to a website, you might get great conversion. If you say, hey, Twitch fans, go over to Mixer and start habituating yourself to going to that as your primary destination to watch game streams, they'd have to be pretty big fans. And it was proven out, right? So, and we had the same thing. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, where do you think the swing and a miss was then on that? And Red seemed to agree. So like if you're an influencer, and obviously you're just going to take your money, right? But like if you're the person who's paying the influencer, like what does that look like? Do you just say like, hey, because like Ninja said it, like is that like an axiom? I don't know. So I'm interested. Like what was their research on that?
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of research on those things are, I don't know, he sells a lot of merch. Like I don't think you necessarily know.
I think it's just that he has a number next to him. And that's to me one of the problems right now is like someone has a number next to them, but no one does actual proper marketing research on where those numbers come from, how consistent those numbers are, how do they like transcribe into other things. Compared to somebody that might be, let's say 50K or 10K or damn near 1,000 people is watching them. Like it's just organic, it's just more organic. The conversion is organic and the impact can be even higher than somebody who has 10 million plus. Because grant, 10 million people is not always looking at him. Like it was like 24, it's just not like they're there because okay, it's Ninja, but it's like because he got the hype surrounded behind him, after everything we know of his experience, who he is, he was a pro player. But that one marketing thing that happened with Drake and the rest of the other rappers in putting two worlds together blew him up. You know, so it's like, okay, I want a piece of that too. That's all that was. So like, I want a piece of that too. But that doesn't mean that's going to work in your own case study. You know, that worked for that case study there. That doesn't mean it's going to work for yours. So they thought that was going to happen. And I'm like, that's not always the case.
Do you think that someone like Ninja would like have some type of fiduciary responsibility to the people giving him millions of dollars to be like, why do you think I'm going to be helpful? Or is it
one would wish? I mean, Ninja's not the one negotiating it, right? Like,
I'm not going to say no.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You think you're responsible in making this decision of giving me $5 million? Because I don't think it's responsible. I'm not going to do that.
I'm on both sides of it. And I'll tell you, like, once big numbers are getting thrown around, everybody feels like it's winning the lottery. They don't feel like it's a partnership where they're looking for equitable exchange for a long-term relationship where you're building. You're like, take your money and run. Like, put your contract fast.
I mean, that's golden parachute right there. That's like, at what point do you think Ninja's like, yeah, I kind of have some seller's remorse there, which is a word we don't hear a lot at all. But it's like, I would genuinely be like, guys, like, did you look into this? Like, take one of those million and do
You're
something.
A good person.
Well, we'll see. If somebody knocks on my door for 30 million, maybe not.
Yeah. You know, I've never even heard that sentence that Red said in a real setting. Like, are you being responsible by giving me all this money? I never even heard that. Never even heard that.
I don't know.
Said it. I didn't even know you could string that along. Derek, I wanted to ask you, D, because you run events, in Marcus as well. What do you guys think when you're selecting an influencer? Because I think I agree with Red. When you're looking at influencers, it's about that engagement more than the following, right? So it's like, what do you guys do when you're picking an influencer for an event down in Florida or something where you want to attract people? If you're going to pick talent to bring the attraction, like, what is it that you guys look for if it's not just numbers?
So I'm not a numbers guy. Like, my real focus in the industry is the popular people, let them be popular and get the opportunities that they need to. I rather nurture the people that are really down to be on the team. They're consistent. I know I can count on them to support the event, post the content, repost the content, and actually drum up engagement within their community, and then help them have more, digital rep in what they're doing. Like, that's what I find valuable. I don't seek the popular people because they're already getting opportunities. It's these other guys and gals that if you give that opportunity, you're really showing that this space has an opportunity of economic empowerment. If the cool people still are the only ones getting the opportunities, this isn't an economic empowering industry. Growing. Right. So that's how I look at it. I look for the consistent guys and gals that are originally doing their brand, which it's always is hard from a sponsorship standpoint because brands like numbers, like that's what they want to feel comfortable with, even though I've tried to express to them that a popular person that you get, who on your side of the fence is going to manage that activation, who's going to keep up with the deliverables, check off on the deliverables, maintain that relationships. It's easy to cut a check and think that this brand ambassador influencer is going to set their own calendar of how much content they're going to post for you, how much they're going to support your brand, like once they cast a check. To me, that's always been naive, but then again, I've also recognized because I'm not popular, me talking about the value of a popular person doesn't have any validity in front of a brand, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating because numbers can all be faked and fandom isn't a monolith, right? If you've got 10 million fans, you don't know how deep that fandom runs. So what I always tell people to do, if you want to know who's really hot at the moment, go to TwitchCon, go to VidCon, go wherever, grab a coffee, go sit somewhere where all of the creators will walk by and the fans will walk by and hear who the loudest cheers are. Right. And it works every single time. If I want to know who's hot right now, I'll sit there for 8 straight hours with a little notepad and a coffee, and I'll just watch people walk by and go, oh, that person's now more popular than Markiplier because they got more cheers. And then like, ooh, FaZe is really hot right now because when they walked by, people lost it. And, I found that to be a way better indicator than numbers.
Right. Having the ear to the ground, which is something I'm always preaching. Y'all know that. Like, having your ear to the ground is more important than, knowing how many, elephants are coming. You want to know how close it is. So it's like,
right.
That's something that's really, really important. And I guess like in deciding something like that, this is my first Phil and Gianni kind of split. From like a startup standpoint, like what would make you make that decision? I guess Derek, you kind of explained that. And Phil, if you could expand on that. And then Gianni, from being inside of a company, that would be where the kind of what Derek was saying, where like who on your team checks off all these boxes. If you were the person who had to check all the boxes to bring in someone as an influencer to an event, what would it be that's most important to you, Gianni, and what would it be that's most important to you, Phil, being that kind of one startup environment and one like structured corporate environment?
Phil, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, I can jump in. When we look at people to bring to something like events, it's always who best exemplifies the brand. So it doesn't have to be the most popular person, but if it's somebody who's doing everything right, that other people can look at and say, oh, that's the model of how to do all of this right. Like positive communities, regular streaming, like great brand, awesome on camera, has a different point of view. Like those things are all so valuable that, yeah, sometimes, I mean, unfortunately, the people with the biggest numbers on every platform are not always the best platform ambassadors because when it's decided upon by the crowd will oftentimes go towards trolls and, you'll see a lot of those kind of communities grow up. So you want to kind of like hide the trolls a little bit and be like, all right, they're on the platform. We're not going to boot them from the platform. They're great for the platform. But like, we're not going to put them on our booth. Instead, we're going to take somebody who's like waking up every single day saying, how do I give back to my fans? How do I build my community? How do I show a level of professionalism? So that's generally how we'd select. And then we'd, of course, look for making sure that we have a lot of different voices represented at each event, because we also don't want to look like we're only one thing to one person, right? Especially at a place like Facebook, it's global, right? So like we have to worry about what we look like in Singapore as much as what we look like in North America. So everything has to represent that as well.
Right.
Yeah, and from my vantage point, the bringing on a someone to kind of turn the needle or turn the needle would be more a function of, are you a business to business company or business to consumer company? So I'm business to business, right? So what we're looking at is for companies or representatives from other companies that are trendsetters. So the people that, are more focused on something that does align with our brand, as Phil mentioned. So for example, if we're trying to like have a speaker, we're trying to have a speaker that's also going to resonate with the top of the top business executives at Fortune 2000s in the world. So for example, if you have a speaker from like a BlackRock or an executive from Facebook, right? Like these are people that are gonna like get other people that eat, sleep, and breathe this type of stuff every single day to say, hey, you know what? If they're doing it, maybe we should consider it. Maybe it's not right for our business, but we should probably consider it. And that's what we look for, because, and I don't think that's whether you're in a business or outside of business. I think that's more business to business, B2B, or business to consumer, B2C, who you're bringing on. Because, for example, if my company brought on Ninja, it would be like, well, who the F is Ninja? we had Shaq at one of our events. Sense. Yeah, right. We had Shaq at one of our events, and it was awesome, larger than life. I don't know if we made another deal. Like it doesn't matter.
That's the thing. Yeah,
it was cool though.
Yeah. That's the beauty of retired athletes is that they always a lot of buzz, and you're like, yeah, what did the conversion look like for the cost? I don't know. It was cool.
It was cool. And like sometimes I look at those things where we had Emmett Smith, we had Shaq, we had Damon John as a keynote speaker, and Sebastian and Marcus know I'm basically in a love affair with him. Essentially, like like a Damon John is more of a tip the scale needle type person, right, for us. Because he has that in terms of like getting people to do things. Whereas like if Emmett Smith is like, you got to run through the whole, like I'm not going to listen to Emmett Smith. Like he played for Dallas. I'm an Eagles guy. So
my question to further that, I love that point you're making. There are probably people who are higher on the entrepreneur chain than Damon John or in that space, but you pick Damon John particularly because of certain intangibles that you feel like he can help push that scale for the audience that you're talking about. So more than numbers, it's more specific to kind of what Phil said. So there are kind of like similarities there. It's kind of like, all right, if this person represents what we do better, then the opportunity might lie better than somebody who's X times bigger.
Yeah, so let's go with both. Oh, go ahead, Red.
No, it's just he's a perfect example because he hits pretty much all sides. He has notoriety. We see him on TV. We see him give out, personal advice, business advice. Like, he is favorable. A lot of people can see him being more relatable on a business side, a common side, and specifically from where he come from. Like, he's from my neighborhood, and to go from Hollis, Queens to, to make it where he's at, it just shows a lot. So he can hit all different types of like tax brackets, period, because you're going to want to look at him, you want to listen to him, and he's favorable for that. So it always makes sense if you're going to pick that person who's going to fit what you're trying to do on a business end. So yeah, he's a perfect example.
You get a lot of people. It's like you guys were saying. It's been said multiple times. And Red, that was well stated. It's like you get a lot of people who are picking. In fact, I would argue that a lot of this industry is picking based on the numbers, right? Like it's not really segmenting into, what does represent our business. So to hear a traditional industry, like Gianni's, and even hear the larger companies like what Phil, has represented, I feel like it just shows that even the bigger companies are being more, for you listeners, are being more concise and like, oh, look how big they are. Look how, they're being more concise than that, and that's something that I feel I see it all the time. As easy as it seems, I see it all the time that people don't get the return on their investment. And it's just like, this influencer marketing does not work.
People love one-offs for some reason.
Yeah, right. Like one-offs. Like you see it all the time. And it's
people love one-offs.
It's,
it's going to get harder and harder too, because you're seeing the rise in dark social, right? Where Telegram groups are getting as powerful as Twitter feeds. There's no way you can measure that. So I like to join a bunch of those just to kind of do my research. And the biggest ones that I join, even though I'm kind of just a toe dip in this world, is like the crypto and blockchain ones. Mm-hmm. You will see 80,000 messages a day being exchanged on Telegram, just like constant going. And I'm like, try to find me one Twitch feed that's got that, right? That level of engagement. You can't. And you can't even measure these statistics. This is just something you have to join and know. And when you see that, I think you're going to see not only a rise in B2B dark social marketing, which is going to be fascinating because then the SEC can't see it. So there's going to be a whole lot of shady stuff happening there. Right. Or like stuff, well, shady is I won't use that term. There's going to be weird stuff happening there.
Right. Non-traditional for sure, right?
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then also you're going to see a whole lot of people who are moving over their marketing spend away from paid media, which I think is going to be really fun. I mean, the death of cookies, I think, is already going to start moving things in that direction. But I am really excited for the day when, based on the LinkedIn following I've built, people go, hey, do you do campaigns? I don't think I ever would, but it will be a fascinating day when somebody asks me to do a campaign on my LinkedIn feed.
That's true.
I've seen that in the LinkedIn space. There are some people in the esports space that are doing campaigns on their LinkedIn feeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen a fair amount of them in the crypto space as well, where people kind of hide a hashtag ad at the bottom, and you're like, did you just promote an altcoin on your LinkedIn? Like, cool, I'm not going to judge, make your money, but
the SEC might judge you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you might end up in an orange jumpsuit someday, but we don't know yet. So.
We don't know yet. Right. So,
Phil and Gianni, how do you determine what priorities you set, both from an entrepreneurship and an entrepreneurship perspective? Because all of us have limited resources, even if we're in a larger organization, and it can be easy to fill up your plate with other plates and not be as effective on any one thing because you're doing too many things at once.
God, that is the operative question, isn't it? I wish that I had the perfect answer for it, but it really, they say being a CEO is like juggling plates, but it's more. It's knowing that there's should be 30 of you. There's work for 30 of you, and knowing that there's only one of you, and then just like it's a leaky dam, and you're sticking your fingers in all the parts of the leaky dam and just hoping that it doesn't explode on you, right? So, I mean, I'm a big fan of ruthless prioritization and ruthless organization. So, I'm obsessed with Asana and my calendar, and every minute of every day is, organized around what's going to make the greatest impact, not what's going to keep me busiest. I try to keep phone calls really short. I try to keep meetings short. I try to respect the time of my team. And I just run, right? Every day is different. Like some days you might wake up in the morning thinking you're going to do one thing and you end up doing another thing, and you just have to keep rolling with it. Have a forgiving family, I guess, is the best way to do it.
Yeah, this is probably one of the clear cut where there's a pretty nice Venn diagram between what I experience and what Phil's experiencing. And basically, it's not my job to keep my company afloat. And that's the difference. I don't have to plug holes, right? What I do have to do is work under a directive that is not my own. So, for example, I work for a company and I have my marching orders. Ours is you could easily align our structure to like a military structure, right? So it's like I'm fighting a war, let's call it. I didn't pick it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, this is something that I find interesting. I like the work, so on and so forth. So how do I prioritize? It starts with based on what other people are doing. However, that's inherently flawed because a lot of those people left because they sucked at their jobs. So it's like I have to look at what worked for them and what I think is going to work for me. And there's a lot of trial and error. And where that's interesting is if you're able to keep the ship afloat and keep it going, as Phil described, like that creates an element of success. In what I'm doing, it's like, Gianni, like the ship's going. Are you coming? Are you going to do it? Like, are you going to like accomplish things? So like, I do have to take a certain amount of risk and assign company resources. And I had a multiple year window where I was given slack. And then after a certain number of years, it's like, well, Gianni, if you don't start delivering, we're going to have to start reallocating your resources. So it's like I was able to make my own decisions. So the way that I prioritize, it was originally through past failures of others and my own. And now I'm in a position where I can just feel it. Like, Phil, I'm sure you're in the same camp. Like, you could just feel when something isn't worth it. And the challenge there becomes like when something's new and you initially react a certain way that maybe you just like maybe there isn't an agenda on something, or you feel like someone's not making use of your time, maybe being like, okay, well, maybe this is somebody who could be worth my time if I take over the meeting, right? So like that's where I'm looking at. But if I start doing those kinds of things and I see that someone is just there, or I'm doing something where it's like, man, I screwed up, like I don't have the mental energy for this, or I'm not going to be able to do that. That's when I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And the concept of like starting your day and then all of a sudden like 10 other things happen where I'm keeping the ship afloat, and I'm putting that in quotes because Phil is running a ship, is if there's like a deal that I'm working that I thought was like going to cross the finish line, and then like you're like, oh God, I can do it, and then hopefully like you can ask for favors and pick up the slack somewhere else. So does that answer your question, Marcus?
It does. I'm trying to figure it out myself because I've got so much that I'm working on. I work for a company and I'm also starting my own company, and there's just, and I volunteer, and I've got too many things going on. So I'm trying to figure it out. It's just, there's a lot of moving pieces. So thank you both. That was really helpful.
Well, then if I can give hard. Go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's hard to find space for yourself in there too. I'm a big fan of, every once in a while, I'll have like 3 things I'm passionate about. Earlier this year, it happened, right? So I was an advisor for a company that I was really starting to hockey stick, and therefore I wanted to lean into that more. I was an advisor for a NFT company right when NFTs started exploding. So I'm like, oh, I'd be a fool if I didn't work on this more. And then I was the CEO of Wormhole, where we're delivering a pretty massive product right now. So, and eventually I just had to take a step back from one of them, not Wormhole. I had to take a step back from one of them that I knew was promising and just say, like, I'm sorry, I believe in you. Here's other people that can help you out in it. I just can't, right? If I do this, then I'm going to lose my sanity. So Yeah, it's the hardest part of figuring out how to prioritize has to be about like where do you want to be in 20 years and all those lame things you're asked in interviews, but you really have to get self-reflexive about.
I think I'm going to transcribe that to text and then just send it out as an email.
There you go.
Not wormhole. So, Marcus, for example, whenever you're on meetings have to have an objective. Like, what is the purpose of the meeting? And I'll give the listeners a clear-cut example right now. The purpose of our meeting, which is being recorded and streamed, is to provide your listeners something that's entertaining and they can use in their lives to live a better business or personal life. That is the purpose of this podcast. And if that we had that objective, imagine if we just got on drinking beers, whatever it is, and who knows what happens. I guarantee you your listeners would be like, well, I'm out. And it's like if you're,
I don't know, not in this day and age.
Yeah. Really
not in this day and age.
I mean, in a business setting, I totally.
Unless you're on Twitch, you just
have to have an objective.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't have that, if you don't know what you're working for, you'll be able to tell very, very quickly, and then you can see like, okay, there might have been value here if we had an objective, but there isn't one, and I just can't. And when you have one, if you need me, I'm happy to help you. But until there is one, we'll just drink beers sometimes and put it on Twitter.
Right.
So I have a question. Dare you go?
No.
You about to say something?
No, go ahead.
It was going to talk about wormhole, especially since we was speaking on E3, and I was telling you how like the portal itself was like, okay, what do I do? Explain to us about like XR, the experience of XR, and also seeing how like y'all had a partnership with Twitch, and a lot of fans had loved what y'all did with Twitch. Can you relate to us what XR is, and also what Wormhole could have done for E3 this year to make that experience kind of set in stone that we're so used to experience in person, but could have been done digitally?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So XR just means extended reality. It's kind of the combination of virtual reality and augmented reality. All of these realities started intertwining. So we just kind of use XR as a general term, right? The way that it works through Wormhole is there's two modes in Wormhole. So one is I can hold up my phone and I can look through it on the camera and I see essentially AR around me. But the AR is not just points of interest that you can tap on and go somewhere or have an experience, but it's also the avatars of the people who are also on the product who are walking around you. So if I'm at E3 and I see a giant orc walking by, right, it might just be a person, and you can tap on them and just like, hey, I see that you're walking by. What's up? You want to become friends? Whatever, right? So it's a good way to connect with people around you, which that kind of technology hasn't really existed in that way before. Or we have something called their mode where I could be sitting on my couch, go to the globe, go to where E3 is at the time when E3 is a live in-person event, have my avatar be there, and then I can walk around like I'm actually there. And I'm tapping on like the equivalent of AR, but it's not really AR because it's from away. But
that's dope.
That'll be dope for next year, especially since there's going to be people that are ready to be near a lot of people, and there's going to be people that is not. And especially fans, a lot of times fans only experience the showcase day, and they think that's it. They think that is the entire E3 is the showcases from the big three and the publishers, but they don't really understand what takes place on the show floors where all the magic actually happens is on the show floor. And also at these after parties and other little activations and stuff like that. So something like Wormhole could take someone and put them there. I'm like, yo, I had no idea. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. I try to do it with live streams, but we all know at conventions and any festival, it's like they purposely make sure your phone connection does not work.
Yep.
But something like what Wormhole would be dope because, okay, I could be like, okay, this is the experience I want for my audience or something like that to experience E3 with me.
Yeah, and we had to reposition pretty hard during COVID, naturally. So we were going to launch at Coachella last year. That was the big plan, is like, a place where a bunch of cool tech-forward people, everybody wants to see it, big launch. COVID happened, shut down, right? We're like, maybe TwitchCon didn't happen, right? And then we're like, didn't happen. It goes to today. So we actually built out our first go-to-market product as a B2B product. So we've got a virtual real estate open housing product that we're going to market with right now. That was just out of necessity. Like when you're running a business, sometimes you look at what you have to hit, right? What your investors' expectations are in terms of revenue. And there comes a time when you go, in this world right now, in a once in a 100-year pandemic, this just isn't going to happen. People aren't going to be buying avatars to show off at Coachella. It's just not going to happen. So we had to pivot and get some bridge funding through, and now we've got some B2B stuff happening. We're thinking that COVID now is lifting enough that we can go back to our core product and hopefully launch by back to school. But I think a lot of that also depends on the success of the B2B stuff, because if we have 30 companies waving money in front of our face for B2B now, then we might go, yeah, maybe we want to hang out here a little bit longer. So ruthless
just don't
prioritization.
ask them that question if it's responsible or not. just take it.
So Phil, based on your experience in the gaming industry, as long as you've been in it, what is your thoughts on kind of this industry notion that diversity and inclusion is broken within the gaming industry? Like, because you've been in it so long, how do you feel about that conversation?
I mean, like so many industries, it's generationally broken, right? It was broken when the gaming industry started, and therefore people were getting promoted to the top who were all of one background and one type of person, and then it just perpetuated, right? So it's on the gaming industry, just like any other industry, to first of all acknowledge that, which I think a lot of people do a little bit of like lip service acknowledgement, like, oh, it's okay, we've got a head of diversity and inclusion, and they've got their job, so they're going to go sit over there. Well, meanwhile, it's the same type of faces you're going to see who are the CEO, COO, CFO, you know,
all
like,
the time, yeah.
Right. No,
which
facts.
we like. That needs to be addressed very, very head on. And, you know, the initiatives need to go beyond press releases. And second of all, I think that everybody needs to realize the incredible business case behind it, because at the end of the day, most people are like, I'll do whatever it takes as long as the money is there at the end.
Right.
And there will never be talked out of that, which frankly, I think that there's a heck of a business case for it, because it's been proven out again and again and again and again that diverse media, whether it be gaming, television, movies, is actually good for a free market, right? Because when you have diversity, it pops, it stands out, it reaches different audiences. It reaches audiences where there's a lot of disposable income and upward mobility and fan bases. And so I think that there needs to be an acknowledgement that it's when reaching out to minority voices, it's not minority in that market, right? There's 2.5 billion gamers in the world. You can't possibly say having white male protagonists every single time is smart. There's just, it just doesn't make sense, right? So, and yeah, I think also just like the quality of games is getting so good, and the quality of engines and the speed of production, that it's like, it's no longer a 10-year investment for most games unless you're doing a heck of a AAA. Like, we can let stuff exist within indies and grow. We can prove out the models in different ways, and people are already doing a wonderful job on that side. So I could talk about this for the entire time, but yes, huge problem, and something that I feel like very few companies, especially the majors, are acknowledging properly.
I really love that answer, and since you're a part of this great wave that we're calling Esports 2.0, where you're pushing those kind of things, I do want to say RIP to two people. One is Arthur Morgan, because he was a great white protagonist. All right, I like Arthur Morgan. And two, Guile.
Sonic Boom!
Because he's another good white protagonist, and I like both of them. And I just want to say RIP to you guys, because we don't want not to have the gaming that we've had, but like it feels like a moment that I share with kind of that answer, Phil and Derek, like what a great question, was like, I'm like not a teenage game playing kid anymore, and I found myself like really emotionally moved by watching, what did I play in December? Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Man, I was moved by that, man. Like, I'm grown. I'm at the screen. I'm like, because it was like, it was just powerful, man. It was crazy to see, like, from the start, like the minority story from the start all the way to the finish. I was like, damn, I don't even know how many times I've seen that. Like that was without it being like Alien Planet or something like that, right? Like had to be like just really like Harlem, New York, and just the story breaking out, and they made them so dope. Like that was it. There is a power in that does bring on, like you said, for the business opportunity. That made me a customer. You know what I mean? Like it made me a customer, and that was, and obviously I know Arthur Morgan, I know Guile, so it's like it's not necessarily that I don't want to support any kind of protagonist. It's just like, we gotta get some brothers in there. We gotta get some sisters, some
melanin,
Latinas, some all types of stuff, you know what I mean? Like I just want to see it all over the spectrum. You know what I mean? But I definitely think that the industry has a long way to go. But it feels good to see thought leadership like where you're at with it, like being in. I feel like once everybody just thinks about it and moves forward in that direction, we're gonna take this thing to a new level, because it's clearly like we're stuck. This industry is like stuck, right? It's like stuck at this spot. It's really doing great for what we saw over the last 10 years, but we kind of feel like that's a button that everybody wants to press, and we're all looking like with that meme where he's like wiping the sweat. He's like trying to decide which button to press. That's what I feel like we're at, and it's just good to hear like thought leaders like you saying like, like we need to just step it up, fix that, and then the back end is luscious,
Oh yeah, and who's pitching these stories, right? Like the crazy thing about it is when you think of a game, you're like, well, you can have diversity in the 10,000 people who run it, but really it was 3 people in a room deciding to greenlight the Miles Morales Spider-Man, right? Those are the 3 people you need to reach. Everybody else, yes, you can have all the diversity and back-end encoding that you want, but in order to get like that mass market hearts and minds, it's got to be those 3. And that's when you're looking at like the CEOs, the head of development, like the head of business, like the producers, brand managers, like that's where you need to see the diversity.
Right. Definitely. That was powerful. I want to do a cha-ching, but I think we might have to go with a Sonic.
I was like,
Sonic Boom!
Go with Sonic Booms. I like it.
Sonic Boom.
That sound brings me back. I love it.
You're dropping that. So, any other questions from you guys, or we can open questions to the audience? We got about 8 minutes left, and I'm sure that maybe I told them before y'all got on, I was gonna get my fair share of questions off. All right, I made sure that I got the answers I needed, and I'm gonna watch the tape again and again and again. But for any of you guys, any questions or anything before I shoot to the crowd?
Yeah, I got a question for Derek, if you want to go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Phil, is the gaming industry a viable industry for parents to be comfortable with?
Yes, I mean it's a bigger industry than Hollywood music combined. Like this is the crazy thing about gaming, is that everybody still in terms of the mainstream market, I'll sit in the room with like billionaire investors and oil tycoons and everything, and I'll say I've spent a fair amount of my career in gaming, particularly on the gaming influencer side, and I'll still get a lot of like, oh, these are neckbeards in their parents' basement, and they're like computer nerds. It's like, no, this is male and female. This is mobile phones and computers. This is console and Nintendo Switches. This is a babysitter, as well as being a college students bond with each other. Like this is everywhere and everything right now. So yeah, I think that not only is there going to be a huge market in terms of how many people are employed in these AAA games, but also the indie revolution that's been happening over the past, especially 5 years. Anyone can make a game now. Anybody. You just have to have that mentality of heads down, willing to do a little bit of everything. Like it's like starting any startup, except you have to know how to code, and at least code within these engines, which is a little bit lighter than it used to be. But if you can do that, you can get it out there and you can distribute. Steam exists. You can get your stuff out there. So yeah, I encourage a lot of kids, if they're like 12 and they want to get into game design, kind of like kids who wanted to get into acting when they were 12, you used to have to do community theater. Now take out your phone and create YouTube and TikTok videos, right? The same way with game streamers, or game developers of the future. Go online. There's tutorials. They're free. There's free software development kits. You can do everything for free. You don't have to go to college for it anymore.
You don't.
Right. There's no barrier. Remember Flappy Bird? Flappy Bird made a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Mobile game development is very lightweight. I've had a lot of friends who have I took a class on the side a couple hours a night, and here's a game, and I'll play it and be like, well, that's pretty good. Like, I could see that actually being a top 10 game.
Damn, these classes are pretty solid.
Right.
So Phil, you said something a couple things that were pretty interesting, and something that I am overly frustrated about as somebody who studies business and those kinds of things, is the video game industry, from my vantage point, is the only industry that I've ever heard of that's as big, large, and as widespread and widely supported as it is, that when you talk to people, you still get that reaction that you said. I was talking to somebody literally this past weekend, and I mentioned why I was meeting about games, and he goes, "Don't tell my daughter that games are good." He literally said this to me, which like punches me in my stomach. And I was like, "You're like 40, like what?" Like how did you? And I didn't argue with him. I said, "Well, I just want to let you know this is what's happening." And what you just said, the generationally broken, I don't even believe it to be a paradigm shift. I believe that it's going to literally require the Supreme Court justice positions at these major organizations that are as conservative as anything you've ever seen, talking fiscally, and for people like the people on this call and the people that are listening to take those spots over. You're not going to go to those people and say, "Hey, all of a sudden we can breathe on the moon," because for some of them, that's what it's going to be like in their head. Like, wait, we can breathe underwater now? Oh, there's an app for that? Like these people truly do not understand. And you are correct. It is like 3 people. And you multiply that across like 5,000 businesses. It's not even a small city's worth of people. And it's like they have the power. They're the people in the empires, whatever you want to call it. And what we have to do is buffer that from the next generation, so that when people do take over those positions, it's like, oh, well, wow, this is a tinderbox ready to explode. And then all the you're going to have gaming is going to be like, it's going to be its own, like, animal kingdom, plant kingdom, like gaming. And then it's going to go into like 75 other things. That's what's coming. It's coming, and I'm really excited to see like things.
And it's
like
at a fast rate too.
Yes,
it's at a fast rate,
and it's kind of organic. It's like no one's doing it right. I you know what I mean? Like there's so much. It's organic, like the hockey stick growth. It's organic. You know what I mean? So at any rate, I could really go on about that, because it's super frustrating to me to see that.
Yeah.
Because I talk to these people and I'm like, I don't talk about gaming in meetings because I'm like scared that they're going to ask me to leave. You know
crazy.
What I mean?
It's crazy.
Oh,
so crazy.
You know what's interesting? What's interesting is that, and I hope everybody who's watching, thank you, by the way. Hope you're listening, because that's an industry professional telling you that, like, I do think that was a great point, Phil. Gotta circle back on that. I'm gonna cut that gem out of this episode for sure. Is that it is like 3 people. You know what I mean? It always boils down to that. When you get into these meetings, and we're the ones who came from the industry. Between me, you, and Red, there's like 20 E3s. I would brag about 6, but I apparently am the smallest in the room. So,
I got you. I went to 2, Sebastian.
Oh, okay, cool. So I have 6. Yeah, but it's really us, right? Like, we're the ones who, like, we came with this. We dream it up. We live in it, ears to the ground again. And it's those 3 decision makers that are like, yeah, I don't care. And that's what we see a lot. And I just think it's really important. And I hope all of you out there listening who do take the gems from this, Gianni's right. And you guys know that's a strong passion point for me. It's you guys. I really think that. That's how I really feel. Yep. It's you guys who need to get into the other side of the table and become the decision makers, right? You got to get qualified. You can't just do that. But your biggest qualification for sure is the fact that you are the living ecosystem. You know what I mean? Like, we are the ones who play it. We buy it. We support it. It's not just the publishers and developers. It's the people in it who set the culture and create it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, I definitely just thought that was a great point, Gianni. Like, you guys need to take that one, because it is you. It really is you.
It's gonna be a while. It is gonna be a battle, and it is gonna be us. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, Sebastian, I agree that they don't care, and I also believe that a lot of these people are incapable of understanding. Some of them, and I believe that some of them are. However, it needs to be an entire generational replacement. I don't think it's going to be a reparation. I think it's going to be a replacement. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting over the next, and I hate to say 3 decades, but that's how long I think it's going to take. So anyway.
I don't know. I think just like, the question that Derek posed, one thing is, and it's something that's really important, is actually educating the parents. The thing is that the generation is shifting, that we're the ones that grew up now who played these video games, who experienced certain things in what's called the gaming community, was able to then share our experience with other people in the gaming community and see how fruitful it can be financially and how much it can impact. It's just that, will this generation of these people growing up with video games now be in their 30s and mid 30s to 40s, will they hold these different positions so that there can be a change, so it can be very welcoming and not I don't want you to tell my daughter that this is, that video games is good or not, because they didn't really grow up with it. They probably played Pong or something like that. But they didn't really grow up with the experience. They didn't grow up with seeing esports grow. They didn't see, wow, there's a CEO and a vice president of Activision Blizzard and she's a Black woman. They didn't grow up seeing that. Now we get to grow up and see that that is possible. So then we can then elect and tell our children, look, you see you playing a video game. I bet you've been on there for about 5-6 hours. Let me show you what's behind that you can actually make money off of it. You want to be a content creator? Let me show how that is. You got kids now, they probably have LLCs and all kind of stuff now because they're growing their YouTube channels. They're becoming the face of their own brand. So I see that it won't take so long, just as long as we just have those educational moments and organizations that can actually educate parents. Because to this day, I always got to tell my mother, look, Ma, this is what I do. This is what I'm into, and this is what it is. Right. And I have a passion, and it's been a consistent passion, opposed to some of our parents. It probably was because of what their parents told them to do, or something that they seen that was going to be successful at the moment, instead of actually following their dreams and passion to make it an actual career that they could get up and say, wow, this isn't a job for me. This is just life. So yeah,
I agree with you, and allow me to clarify. I'm not saying that we can't make huge change immediately. I am literally, that's why I went down to Tampa to meet Marcus for that very reason. What I'm saying is the CEOs of some of the companies that we're talking about are 75 years old, and they will not be replaced generationally for a while. I'm talking about everything that you just said, educating the parents and showing the good of gaming. That's going to happen every day for a while. And that's one of the things that, what Marcus is trying to do. That's one of the main things that's happening already. So I
parents
totally
are interested now. They wait a minute. So-and-so made how much at Fortnite? Wait, who did what? Parents are now seeing because they have a case study. A lot of times you could say, okay, this is this. Now we have cases. We don't have to go through this whole synopsis of what we do a lot of times or what something can be of. Now this case study to show look, your child too can be a billionaire. Your child too can own this business.
Or have a job.
Studies on the internet, right? You don't have to go to the library to go show your parents.
Exactly. Your kid could be a lawyer in gaming. Your kid can be a doctor in gaming, a physician. There's just so many different avenues of traditional stuff that now you could put onto the new age of what we have, which is the gaming industry, which is the number one industry of them all right now. So, we got it. We got it. We just got work to do.
If we have time, I do have a question for Phil. That's not wholly off topic, but not gaming related, more the CEO of a company related. Do we have a moment?
Sure.
Okay, so as Phil, again, you're running a business, you're keeping the ship afloat, and there's a lot of folks here that are managing and running their own business, whether it's their own brands or whatever it might be. Do you have a couple of suggestions or outlooks on how to keep things going and how to stay positive and motivated and adapting and, basically however you see fit to let the folks know that if they keep doing the right things, what those right things are and that they'll get there?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that I've always followed in my life that have helped me out in a big way. One is surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and listen to them. Even if you think that you're right, really actively listen to them and take it seriously, right? I think there's too many CEOs out there that are utterly dismissive if somebody says something that doesn't fit their worldview. I have a tendency when I do this with politics and everything else too, when somebody challenges me on something, the first thing I do is not fight back. The first thing I do is start learning, right? I research everything I can on it and be like, am I right here? Maybe I'm not right. You kind of have to do that in business all the time. because sometimes data will make you dumb. You'll look at something and be like, oh, well, this means we should do this kind of game, or this means we should do that. Then somebody goes, well, actually, the reason why that data netted out is because there was world force or outside force that were causing that. And it's actually changed now because of this. And you go, oh, crap, that might be right. And then you've got to like reposition your entire brain. So I love to surround myself with people who are just as dug in as it gets, who are very, very smart. And then 2 is to realize that the only true knowledge is to know that you know nothing. And to always, the 3 most powerful words in business is I don't know. And never be the kind of person who goes into a meeting to try to teach everybody else. Try to be the one that goes in the meeting to learn from everybody else. Even if it's a client, even if it's a customer, you're always there to learn. Because if you're absorbing everything, then you get the full point of view. Then you can really absorb it and go, oh, I got it. This is what they need, and this is how I can feed into it. Go to them with a clear presentation. Say, I'm going to make this as easy for you as possible. I'm going to be as additive to your business as possible. And that's the way you close business really quickly. So, yeah, try to move fast, right? I'm not like Facebook where they say move fast and break stuff. I've never believed that. I move fast and be so diligent while you're moving fast you don't break things, right? Breaking things is a bad thing. Try not to do that.
Hope y'all are ready. That's so many gems that it's gonna overload. Like, I just need you guys to know. I promised we would bring them tonight. Gianni, what a question. Yes, that's all, especially all my entrepreneurs out there. Learn from the best. I think that's a great thing. Something I read that falls in line with that is like 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? Like, you'll always have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you gotta do twice as much listening as you do speaking. And I've found that to be right in line with what you're saying to help me in my journey. So definitely stamp on that. I think that's brilliant. Like, Gianni, great question. Great question.
I do what I can. Phil, thanks for answering.
You're a hero.
It was all me.
Okay, guys. Well, starting with Phil, tell us what you have going on this week, where everybody can get to you if they need to. I know you're busy, Phil, but if anybody needs to get to you or see what's going on with Wormhole, where can they reach you? What do you got going on this week? These are our outros.
Yeah, I'm at Phil Ranta on all social platforms. Unfortunately, my number 1 social platform that I use is LinkedIn, which is the most boring, but it's what I do.
We like LinkedIn.
That is not unfortunately at all.
We like LinkedIn.
People are sleeping on LinkedIn. That's
right. I agree.
We met on LinkedIn, Phil. What are you trying to say?
That's true. That's where I met most of my business contacts. I've just been a diehard user for 5 years, but. So find me there. You can always DM me. I'll always do my best to reply, unless it's spam, in which case I will not reply. Right. For Wormhole, you can go to wormholelabs.com. We do not have a public product out now that we're doing our B2B stuff, but if you want to just do a pre-sign up through the website, then you'll get more information as soon as we go out to consumers.
All right now. How about you, D? What do you got going on next?
So we got a tournament with Beasley Media Group. We're doing their Beasley Gaming Series that kicks off this Friday. It's a Mortal Kombat 11 tournament here in St. Petersburg with Joy Franchise and Tom G as the celebrity host. So we're excited about that. I know you smashed me up on MK11.
I was going to say, can I enter? I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to say anything. Anything.
That's okay.
No, listen. I have to be honest.
So it's in person or online?
This is in person, actually.
Okay, damn.
Great.
What joy?
So we had a fight the other night, me and Derek, and I got the best of him. But I will say this. I used to play these games professionally, okay? And Derek, you have a natural knack for being really, really annoying. You know how you play somebody and they just do the one thing that's just like, oh my god, he keeps hitting a button, bro. Like, he won't stop. That he has a really good knack for being a pest, and he knows it. He gives that same Derek laugh every time he does it. So I have to say, even at the highest level, you know how to be annoying. And you're really good. But that's cool. Is that it? You told Red the tournament you're doing in Tampa, that's only online? Or that's only offline?
That's in person. Yes,
it's only in person? Okay. Well, lucky Tampa people, because I would enter. Marcus, how about you?
Nothing yet this week. Well, actually, on Friday, got a 1 minute video dropping for Juneteenth. Just recognizing and reflecting on the emancipation of slaves and the significance of that and what it means moving forward. So look out for that on Friday.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. How about you, Red?
Just more E3 coverage, doing a lot of reaction and afterthought videos, have some unboxings to do, Guilty Gear Strive. So I have some showcases to do on certain games and reviews. So yeah, I've been busy this whole week, and then next week is gonna be crazy. But yeah, this week pretty much all E3 stuff.
Okay. We gotta have somebody out here doing. What's this, 11 for you? This is 11 right here.
No, this is the 10th one.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, 10 in a row. This is the decathlon. You got to make this one super special, bro. This is the 10th one. Gianni, how about you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Gianni Maiorano. And I last time one of the big topics was like what's some of the literature out there from a business development standpoint. And currently I'm finishing up the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who's a former FBI negotiator. I highly recommend it to literally anyone, whether you're in business or you just want to learn how to do any type of negotiation. So finishing that up, and I was participating at a book club for my company for that. So that's not public, but that's something that I'm doing.
That's dope, though. That's dope. I believe book clubs are one of the last great things people don't do anymore is like talk about books, especially since we live in a not private world. Like one thing that a mentor told me is like you can tell the difference between people now by their books and their playlists, because everything else is public. So you can you can determine people that way. So it's pretty dope that you're still digging through those books. I'm still taking a couple ones you recommended me, so thank you for that.
I hope you're enjoying them.
And on my end, I'm finishing up this course, which is the course side of the Eat for Life brand, which teaches digital marketing, advertising. I did start a daily 10-minute piece called 10 Minutes with Chosen, and that's where I talk about cool things and cool tricks that help me with my business. Like yesterday, we waxed a little bit about IG DMs. Like, I do a lot of business through the DM and IG on Instagram, or DMs on LinkedIn too, Phil. I like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's popping, all right?
Yes.
People don't get it. Look, we met you through LinkedIn, all right?
Right.
So, talk about different DMs, different ways that you can like ignite your business, bring in leads, things like that. So you can find me at all the same channels you're watching this on now. Yeah, that's what we're doing daily. So come through. It's lit. And thank you, Phil. Thank you, Gianni, for joining us today. Thank you to my wonderful castmates who always bring that noise. And thank you guys for always coming and supporting us, man. We're here to drop gems for you. We hope you found value in tonight's episode. We can't wait to see you next week. And until then, we're out of here, baby. Y'all stay safe.
Thank you.